Hey, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ruby and today we're going to be going through my October wrap up. I had a pretty good month. I had 2 5-star reads, which is not bad considering I read 12 books. I had my first 1-star rating of the year, which if you've been watching, you know that I recently just started reading again, actually reading quite a bit. Because in previous years I wasn't really reading much. I was reading maybe 1 to 3 books a year. So now that I'm back into reading, I have had a pretty good experience, but this month I tried something a little different and it kind of didn't work out. But let's get into it. So let's start off with my only DNF of the month and of the year so far, Circe by Madeline Miller. I didn't get to this. I mean, I did get to it, but I stopped at page 165, which was this much, which I was almost halfway. And then I gave up. I have a vlog for this, a reading vlog. It's the witch vlog, which I'll go ahead and link up here. Yeah, I talk about it in more detail in that vlog, but basically I just wasn't really loving this, even though it was a good story. I think what happened was that because I'm a mythology fan, I already knew Circe's story, and so I kind of just wasn't very entertained. You know, it was good, but I kind of already knew what was gonna happen, so I just stopped reading it and moved on to something new and fresh. I don't know if I'm gonna be unhauling this because I've been unhauling books and selling them on Pango, and that's because, like I said, I'm moving next year to California, and I don't want to carry so many books if I can help it. But I'm not going to just get rid of books for the sake of getting rid of them. However, this one I don't think that I'll be revisiting. I'm just not interested. So DNF. And then there was one book from my October TBR that I just didn't get to. I ran out of time. And it's Belladonna by Adalyn Grace. I had been putting this book off from my TBR books because honestly I just wasn't really getting drawn to it, and then I ran out of time. I don't think I'm going to be reading this this year, and probably the only way that I'll read it is if it gets chosen through the TBR prompt jar. Otherwise, I'm just going to be putting it off for now because it's really just not calling to me. If you've read this book and you love it, convince me, because right now I'm just not feeling it. And then there's 2 books that I actually did start reading in October, but I didn't finish them for whatever reason. The first one was A Study in Drowning by Ava Reid, which I included in my November TBR because I am continuing it, so I'm not gonna bore you with it again. But the other one was The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I got to page 65 and then I had to stop because I had to film my witch vlog and the vampire vlog and read those books, so I had to stop this one. But honestly, I was enjoying it. It was not too crazy yet because I was on page 65, but I got to meet the characters, which I liked all the characters that I met. And I know that everybody says this is all vibes, there's no plot, but I felt there was a little plot going on, at least in the beginning. So I do want to continue with this, but I don't know if I mentioned it in my TBR video. The only way that I'll continue with this is if I finish all the books on my TBR. And actually I already strayed from my TBR, guys. I started Archer's Voice by Mira Sheridan because I had it on hold through Libby and it came up and I was like, let me read this. It's a romance, so I'm thinking it's gonna be a quick read. And if you're a romance reader, if you're a romance girl, leave your recommendations down below because I want to get more into romance, but I don't know where to start because I'm not a romance reader. I'm a fantasy reader. So I'm just kind of lost and wandering around, and you'll see that I have not been successful. I went through it in October because I don't know. Show me your ways because I don't know where to start. But I'm reading that in the hopes that maybe I'll like that because like I said, I'm just lost. And then we get to the first book that I actually read and completed in the month of October, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. This was a buddy read between me and my brother, so I wanted to make it a priority, and I did. I've heard a lot of people say that you don't need to know about the video games and stuff like that in order to enjoy this book. And I don't think that you do, but I think that it definitely helps, because I myself am not a gamer girl, but my husband and my brother are computer engineers and gamers. So through them, I've learned about a little bit about programming and gaming. And so there was things in here that I could appreciate more, and I feel that did enhance my reading experience of this. In this book, we follow Sam and Sadie, and we follow them for like 30 years. We essentially follow them for most of their life. They meet when they're like 10, and they have like a 1-year friendship, and then they have a falling out, and they don't meet again until college. They end up rekindling their friendship and end up creating like this gaming company and making all these successful video games. And there's a lot going on. Sam experiences chronic pain from an accident he had when he was a kid. Sadie experiences grief, loss. Honestly, it was a fun time. I actually liked it, and I don't know if a fun time is appropriate. It was an interesting read, following their lives. And this is typically not something I like, because I typically don't love literary fiction, contemporaries. I like escapism. I like to go to a different world. I don't want to be here. So I didn't think I'd love this, and I ended up giving it 3.75 stars. I would have given it 4, but at the end, Sadie's character kind of annoyed me a little bit too much. She honestly annoyed me throughout, but in the end, I was just like very annoyed. And that's a me problem, because she was going through something understandable, but I couldn't relate, and I'm not empathetic, so it kind of hindered my enjoyment. But if you're a normal person like my brother, then you'll probably really like it. However, like I said, it was a good book. I love the use of metaphors, like the video game metaphors. That was really interesting. Like in the beginning, he is at the subway station, and he's explaining how it's just so crowded, so overwhelming, with people like walking and walking and walking in front of him. And he uses the metaphor or analogy of it being like Frogger, the game. And I literally just pictured Frogger and like playing Frogger as a kid and crossing the traffic, and it just, little things like that really elevated the reading experience for me. Also, page 307, I remember this because I made it a point to write it down. He, instead of Gabrielle just saying that our main character, who like I said is experiencing chronic pain, he injured his leg and he really can't do much other than walk, and he needs to use a cane for assistance. And he can really only just walk, like not even on like difficult terrain, just smooth terrain, and just walk. He can't leap, he can't jump. And he compares it to like a joystick, how you know back in the day, games using a joystick, you could really just go left or right, or within reason. You couldn't really do leaps and bounds. For that, you needed the buttons. So again, I feel like you don't need to be a gamer, but if you are or have experience with gaming, it just elevates the reading experience. I really enjoyed it, and as somebody that doesn't like litfic and contemporary stuff, I really like this, so check it out. After that, I read Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez, and listen, for the first 75% of this book, I flew through it. I ate this up. I was like 5 stars, 5 stars. So I'm telling you this to tell you that this is a really good book. But again, the female main character at the end annoyed me so much. And again, this is a me problem. The fact that I couldn't relate and I'm not empathetic, again, hindered the reading experience for me. But because those are things that like bother me. But if you're a normal person with normal feelings, then you'll probably love it. But man, this was so good, so fun. I ended up giving it 3.75 stars. And the first part of this, oh, somebody left a comment. Thank you. The first part of this, part of your world, I gave it 4 stars. And this one 3.75, but honestly it was so good. And I am here for this woman, Abby Jimenez. I follow her on TikTok. If you don't, you should. She is so interesting, so talented, and I'm obsessed with her. Obsessed. I want to be her when I grow up, even though I'm already grown up. But she's just so interesting. Like, she's obviously an amazing writer. she won one of those like cake competitions because she's an amazing baker. She has her own bakery. She has a super talented family. Like all her daughters are musicians and they're so talented. Like Maya, her youngest, plays like 15 instruments or something. She's like a musical prodigy. She has the cutest dogs, and my favorite is Stuntman Mike. He's so cute. Yeah, I love her. I will support her. I will buy all her books from here on out. She actually has a new book coming out in April, which I'm gonna be buying, and you should too, because they're so good. They're so fun, so quick, and again, I love her. The next book that I read, I did have a physical copy, but I don't have it with me anymore because I gifted it to my brother, and that is The Little Prince. I wanted to read this because it's so beloved. Everybody has read this, I feel like, and everybody loves it. Again, because of my personality and the way that I am, I gave it 3 stars. However, I can totally see how this is a 5-star read for most people. It was beautiful. It honestly was. And I can see how if you have children, reading it with your child would be a beautiful experience. I am a childless millennial. So yeah, it was just me and Butters, and Butters was not interested. So yeah, but the dedication of this book, 5 stars. 5 stars. Like, that was my favorite part of the book. I loved it. The way that this man writes is so beautiful, so poetic. I actually felt something, and that is saying something. Like, that dedication was just gorgeous. And the book was too, but like I said, it just wasn't for me. However, it is a beautiful story and definitely a great way to talk and explore about loss, grief, acceptance. It was gorgeous. After that, I listened to the audiobook of Happy Place by Emily Henry, and I actually just got this copy yesterday from Pengo. I bought it off of someone for like $8 or $9 because I gave this 5 stars. I love this. And one thing though is, when I listen to audiobooks, I think I've mentioned it, I don't fully pay attention most of the time. I have to really tell myself, dude, pay attention, because most of the time I'm doing something else. I'm either cooking or I'm cleaning or I'm showering. And so I don't always fully pay attention, and I wish that I had engaged more with this, because even though I was like half listening, this was 5 stars for me. I love this story. There is miscommunication in here, which I don't love. There's some tropes that I don't like pregnancy trope, miscommunication trope, and there was miscommunication in this, but I understood it. And not that I could relate to it, but I could see it as someone in a relationship of 19 years. Like, I could understand why there was miscommunication, so it didn't like hinder my reading experience. 5 stars, so good. And she has a new book coming out in April, Funny Story. I'm so getting that. Hopefully I can. But I just love this. And I have Beach Read, Book Lovers, People We Meet on Vacation, and I haven't read them. This was my first Emily Henry, and I feel like I have to read them all now because I love this so much. After this, I picked up an audiobook, Assistant to the Villain. I picked this up because I had seen people talking about it on TikTok, and it was pretty polarizing. Some people were tearing it apart, and some people were like giving it 5 stars. And when something's that polarizing, like The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, I want to read it. So I read it, or I listened to it, and again, it was kind of that half listen to it, but I had a good time. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars, I believe. And like I said, it was a good time. It wasn't anything amazing, but it was cute. It was kind of funny how she falls for the villain, which I don't think is a spoiler. I think we all know. But yeah, it was something. I just felt like it was maybe not executed the best way, but I've said before that I read and rate for enjoyment, so I'm not gonna tear it apart. I didn't think it was like executed great, but as someone who doesn't get stuck on those things, I can see past it for the most part. I was fine and it was a good time. And I do want to read book 2. I wish I had the paperback with the red sprayed edges, but I don't own this and I probably will not because, as I said, I can't afford to buy any more books this year. So maybe next year, but I'm not like rushing for this one because like it wasn't my favorite. But yeah, fun time. I would definitely listen to it if you like don't have much going on. Good read. I really want to get into romance, as I said, and I was gonna do a whole dark romance reading vlog where I was trying 3 different dark romances, beginning from what the girls say are like introductory books to like you're on the deep end, like it's kind of scary. And the 3 books that were going to be featured in there was starting off with Hooked by Emily McIntyre, and then moving on to Neon Gods by Katie Roberts, I'm not sure. And then the 3rd one was Hunting, I think it's Hunting First, Adeline by who knows who. But I started off with Hooked and I hated it. I listened to it on audiobook and I finished it. It was a very quick listen, but I just did not like it. I felt like the story was stupid. The execution was lame. The smut was not for me. Her kink was not for me. I was like, girl, that's kind of scary. I don't think that I would ever enjoy that, but like to each their own. It just wasn't for me, and I'm definitely not continuing the Never After series because if that's how it's gonna go, it's not for me. It just was not. That being said, I didn't want to give up because I'm not gonna judge a whole genre by like the one book. So I then didn't realize that I actually own a dark romance. Like I thought this was a romance. I got it in like a bundle with all these other books from like Mercari or Pengo, but apparently it was a dark romance. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll like this one. Maybe it'll have a plot and I can, go with it, read the smut. And yeah, it was a better time. I think I rated this 3 stars. Yeah, 3 stars. I liked that there was some sort of story going on. And as I said, I do like mythology, so I did like the reimagining. It wasn't the best story ever. The reimagining was kind of weak, but I was entertained. I read it in a day because obviously like romances are pretty quick. I read it in a day. The smutty scenes were definitely better than Hooked, in my opinion. Like I could stomach them and tolerate them. Not that Hooked was like that intense. It rubbed me the wrong way. And they were good. I wasn't like cringing. I wasn't like repulsed. It was a fun time. So yeah, I still think that maybe dark romance is not for me. And I did not continue on to Hunting Adeline because I have heard that that's like really dark. Maybe one day, again, if you're a dark romance girly and you have faves, convince me. Leave them down below because I don't want to write off a whole subgenre based off of 2 books. So let me know. If you're one of those girls, recommend something because again with romance I'm just very lost. So after that I started my witchy vlog, the Monster Reads mini-series with the witches. The first read was The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, and this was a fun, cute, cozy read. I really liked this. I ended up giving it 4 stars. We follow Mika Moon, and Mika is a witch, and in her world you are not meant to be with other witches. You're supposed to lead a very solitary life. Witches are very much discouraged to even get together. They only get together once every 3 months at like a top secret meeting where they discuss spells and any problems that they may have. But she's lonely, and she starts making YouTube videos where she plays a witch, thinking that nobody's gonna believe that she's a witch until somebody does, and our story begins. Honestly, I liked it. It was very cozy, very cute. I'm not a sucker for found family. It's really not something that touches my itty bitty heart. But the found family here was cute. I'm not gonna lie. It got me 4 stars. And then I read A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon by Sarah Hawley. And listen, I feel like this is not the greatest book ever. It was like just okay if I'm being objective, but subjectively, I freaking loved it. I did give it 3.75 stars. I couldn't give it 4, but I read this so quickly. I liked it a lot. I don't think that there was anything that I found like super like, dang, I don't like that. It was a good time. It was a book that you go into it not taking it too seriously and you end up having a good time. There was smutty scenes in here and obviously they weren't hardcore, but I was comfortable with this. I was like, okay, tasteful. So if you have recommendations that are more like this, I think I need to start here. But I really like this, and I didn't know that there was going to be a book 2, which there is, and it releases on my birthday this year, November 28th, and it's called A Demon's Guide to Wooing a Witch, where we follow his mentor, who is still a bad guy, so that should be a fun time. But yeah, in this, the witch Mariel is predestined, or like it's told she's gonna be one of the best witches of her generation, and she's just not living up to it. She's really not. She just wants to bake. She just wants to garden. One day she does a summoning spell, and instead of summoning a flower like she wanted to, she summons a whole ass demon. And our story begins. We have fake dating. We have very forced and close proximity needed. The one bed thing. It was just a fun time. I liked it. The only thing that did bother me, and the reason I gave it 3.75 instead of 4, is that we didn't really have resolution to the whole her being prophesized to be the greatest witch ever. She does kind of come into her own, but I wish there was a little bit more done with that. It was still super fun. I definitely want the second book. I don't know how I'm gonna read it. Hopefully I can get it somehow without having to buy it for now. We'll see. So then after my witch vlog, I did the vampire vlog, which was part 2 of the monster series. And I started with The Coldest Girl in Cold Town by Holly Black. I'll link the vlog up here, but I didn't end up loving this. Honestly, it was pretty boring. And as I said in that vlog, I just don't think that this was meant for me. I'm not in this age group. She was in high school, so it just wasn't for me. But honestly, it was pretty boring. Like maybe for like 2/3 of the book, she's just doing one singular thing, chasing the one guy to get back her little marker to leave Cold Town. So I just don't recommend this. I gave it 2 stars because I did enjoy a little bit of it. But I don't recommend it. Definitely, there's other better books. Even if you're into YA, this is not it. It's just, you know? And the premise sounded super interesting, but I just feel like it was lacking. It definitely wasn't touching on what I wanted to read about, which was the Cold Towns. Yeah, no. And then the second book in that vlog was The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. I was dying when I read this book. I was in so much pain. If you saw the vlog, you know why. And this book helped me get through it. I was definitely distracted. I gave it 4.5 stars, which might be a little too high, but I'm gonna stick with it because it helped me get through that dark time. But yeah, in this we follow Oriah, who is a human that has been adopted by the Vampire King. So she lives among all the vampires and obviously fears for her life because they all want to eat her. She ends up entering this tournament. So we have a tournament, we have trials. I love that. I'm a sucker for that. So yeah, we have an enemies to lovers romance, which I do think was enemies to lovers. It wasn't like hardcore enemies to lovers, but it was. And then in the end, we kind of end up reverting. It's just, it ends up real like everything's up in the air. And the ending, I didn't see everything coming. Like, I feel like the main reveal of the ending, I saw that coming. Like, I knew there was an agenda, but all the other things, I was like, what? They're gonna end it like that? And then there's like 5 books in this series. I thought there was just 2 in the novella, but apparently not. I will continue with these. As you saw, if you saw my TBR for November, I do plan on reading the novella and book 2. So hopefully we get some answers, because this ending, I was like, I don't know. That being said, I still gave it 4.5 stars. I still think it's worth the read. It definitely was like nostalgic to me. Like, it took me back to teenage Ruby, reading Twilight, reading Vampire Academy, reading House of Night. So it was a fun time. I definitely think you should check it out if you like vampires. And then what has to be the biggest freaking surprise to me. Listen, I did not expect to even like this book, let alone love it. And when I had looked it up, I saw some Goodreads reviews, which I don't like to do often because people can be hella negative. And we all have different tastes, right? So when I looked them up, I just didn't think that I would like it because of a lot of things. One of them being this book takes place in like the Regency era, kind of. It very much gave me Bridgerton vibes, where the season starts and the ladies are presented and, you know, the goal is to get a man. So it had that, and I did not really love the Bridgerton books. I read them all except for the very last one, Gregory's Story. They were okay. The show, way better. But this was interesting to me. The Beautiful Ones by Silvia Moreno Garcia. This is my first book that I've read from Silvia Moreno Garcia, and on Goodreads, she went on there herself and she said, because I think her most popular story, her most popular book is Mexican Gothic. And she went on there and said, this is nowhere near what Mexican Gothic is. Like, this is not like Mexican Gothic. Do not go into the story thinking it's gonna be like Mexican Gothic. It is completely different. So I went in just not knowing anything, and I was like, whatever. I'm just here for the vibes. And it was fairly short. It wasn't even 300 pages long. So I was like, what do I have to lose? Dang, I freaking love this. I read it so quickly. It was such a fun time. It reminded me of when I was little, watching telenovelas with my mom. I would lay down in bed with her and we would watch novelas, and there was like the most dramatic ass women villains, which I think is like my villain origin story started then. I just loved villains, and I continue to love villains, and there was this iconic bitch. Yeah, if you're Mexican, if you are Latina and you watch novelas, you know she is iconic, and the villain in here reminded me of her. I just kept thinking of her. Like, at the end, this got so hella dramatic, and I was here for it. I was like eating it up. So The Beautiful Ones, I'm not going to tell you a lot, because with any book, I feel like the less you know, the better. But we do follow Nina, our girl right here. She is a telekinetic, so she has the ability to move things with her mind. So it has a little bit of that, right? A dash, a little skosh of magical realism in there. And really not just, I mean, she full on has powers. But we follow her as she gets presented as a lady in society, trying to find husband, but she's different, obviously. And she doesn't want to just be like all the other girls. Like, she is who she is, and she's proud of it, and she doesn't really want to change. And so we follow along as she has her season, lives her life. There is someone that doesn't like her. It's a fun time. It's a fun time. I really liked it. I don't know what to say, because I don't want to ruin anything for you. Like, just read it. If you're like me, if you were a little girl that watched novelas with your mom and you like the dramatic, like, absurdity of them, then you'll like it. If you don't like soap operas, if you're gonna read like a soapy, silly thing and be annoyed by it, don't pick it up. But 5 stars. I freaking love this. I loved it. So good. And now I want to read Mexican Gothic, even though I know it's nothing like this, just because I really enjoyed Sylvia's story and I need to see what else she can do. So, a really good end of my October reading. And that's it, friends. That was the 12 books that I read. Again, if you're a romance girly, you have experience with the romance genre, leave your recommendations down below, because I want to read more romance. I do like romance. I'm a little noob. Help me. I don't know any better. And it's just not worked out so far that great. But I do like books like A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon, Part of Your World, Yours Truly, where they're just like, they're stories. It's a plot with some romance in it, and there is smut, but it's not like I was choking her until she passed out and she got off on it, which maybe could be a vibe. I just need recommendations, because right now I'm lost. I am lost. So yeah, definitely recommend your favorites too of any book, because if you didn't watch my November TBR, it's my birthday month, and I just want to have the best reading experience this month, because I am low-key sad, high-key sad actually, that I'm here in Maryland alone without my family. So yeah, leave your recommendations down below. As always, if you enjoyed today's video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time for the Iron Flame reading experience. I think I'm gonna film, I haven't decided, but I think I'm gonna film like a spoilery vlog, like as I'm reading. We can read it together. I don't know. But then again, I also want to just like read it and enjoy it on my own. So I'm not sure yet, but we'll see. Bye.